What a sight, really. It's incredible.
Under the roof, a growing network of streets still terminates in the encircling volcanic ash. Yet, like the amphoras and household artifacts embedded in the tephra, still awaiting release, out of the centuries, a community where people worked and laughed and dreamed is slowly emerging.
What was this little room?
Well, this is the room of the lilies. It was covered with frescoes, all three walls.
In this tiny,
yes,
cramped little room?
Yes. And in front of us there was a large painting of the fresco with some swallows.
The swallows were here?
Yes.
Oh, they are beautiful.
And the other wall, much narrower, had also another swallow which goes to land on a flower.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other wall there are also the swallows which were kissing.
Ah, yeah. And what was this room used for?
We don't know, but it was found literally packed with pottery. About 250 vases were found here, and also the bed, which is in the museum, was also here.
So it must have been a small sleeping room, probably.
Probably.
Here, the past is very close. The sound of my own footfall might have been 4,000 years ago. It is easy to believe that in this spellbound square, time has stood still, that in a moment children will come out to play.
It was in this building that we found the frescoes of the fleet, of the fishermen, of the...
In this building?
river escape, yes, in this building.
The long panel found in the so-called Admiral's House shows deer pursued by lions not found in Europe. Painted in the miniature style of the frescoes at Knossos in Crete, the long, elegant ships of the flotilla show the clear influence of Egyptian design. Although sometimes believed to depict a naval battle, there's no portrayal of actual combat. It seems more likely that the fresco may record a formal ceremonial visit from a North African country to Crete or Thera. It is also possible that it is intended as a naive representation of the old legend that the first settlers in Crete were guided there by dolphins.
Where are we here?
Here we are in the Pythoi storeroom. And these jars were found containing different kinds of grains.
Some of these are enormous.
Yes, they were found containing remains of various kinds of crops and seeds. And as you can see, some of them could contain several hundreds of kilos inside.
And why so many?
Well, this is the reason why we try to interpret this room as a storeroom for the community rather than for a family. As you see here, we have a large window at street level.
At street level, you generally don't have windows, is that correct?
We have windows, but not so large,
Yes.
small windows.
Yes.
But we have this evidence that they were paid workers and slaves in olives, in figs, in flour, etc. And probably somebody was sitting inside keeping the accounting.
There was a queue outside.
There was a queue, and
they were giving their names or the
yes.
check.
And if this happened, then we could easily consider this room as a bank.
Yeah, sort of a bank.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And these
are
jars
in position now. You see how nicely decorated they are, and they are still full of ash. We did not empty them yet.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And they had practically no animals here.
In the city, there is no evidence that animals lived in these houses.
Because it was a thickly populated area.
Yes.
Now, do you think there were frescoes in every house in this town?
So far, there is no house which has been excavated without frescoes.
Really?
Yes.
Is it not unusual? I mean,
It is unusual, and this is the reason why we believe that this was a wealthy community living here. And this suggests that the people were conducting activities supplying with this wealth. Mm-hmm. And this cannot be anything else than trade and shipping. And probably we can say here that we have a sort of wealthy bourgeois society.
Of ship owners.
Of ship owners.
How long do you think it will be until all this site is excavated?
I cannot estimate about all this site, but I can estimate what is under the roof.
Yes.
And this at least requires 50 years of work.
50 years?
50, well, it's not much when you count in centuries.
I thought it could go a little faster than that.
It is difficult to go faster because, as you know, the excavation is something like a book of which the pages, after being read, are destroyed. So we have to go very carefully and read very carefully and record everything before we proceed. Before we destroy the page. Well, here it is a typical example of the procedure how we do with the restoration of the frescoes. Mm-hmm. Here we have a corridor, the sides of which, as you see, they were covered with frescoes. We immediately blocked the whole thing and packed it with ash, volcanic ash, waiting for the specialists to come. Meanwhile, the parts which are uncovered have been covered with gauze, which is stuck on them, waiting. And from this place come these fragments, which show that we have lily flowers again.
So under the gaze here are pictures.
Yes, they are.
So there is a buried treasure right
yes,
here.
Exactly. It is a treasure. Here in the laboratory we have several thousands of fragments like this, covered with gauze, and they are kept in drawers. Each drawer contains fragments from a different place. They are all catalogued and classified.
There's several layers in each.
Yes, several layers in each drawer, you see. We have worked for several years here in the laboratory.
So that's the table on which you put the fragments together?
Yes, this is the ultimate jigsaw puzzle.
I should say so.
We have so many fragments after the gauze is removed, and in this we have a unique piece from this site with relief decoration, and in these frames we have this kind of sunflower or rosettes.
And when do you think this enormous work will be finished?
Well, it requires several months of work, if not a year, to be
before
completed.
It is sent to Athens to the National Museum?
Yes.
The salvaged bits of the paintings are transported to the museum laboratories in Athens. There, like elaborate jigsaw puzzles in which many of the pieces are missing, the frescoes are painstakingly reassembled by artisans and technicians. But the history of man and his illusions is less precise, flawed by uncertainties. Though there are powerful arguments that Crete and its rich satellite Thera could have served as Plato's model for a high civilization destroyed by cataclysm, the jigsaw puzzle of the Atlantis myth remains incomplete. But perhaps Thera has left us something more. The eruption that ended the supremacy of Minoan culture preserved in volcanic dust these evidences of it. The shimmering landscape of Western civilization's virgin spring. In their frescoes, the Minoan artists told us of a fragrant world of animals and flowering plants, of playing children and mating birds. But they also revealed a less visible interior landscape, the poised serenity of a golden age in art, an open joy in the senses, the innocence of a civilization that believed it might last forever. Today, in the depths of a caldera, sponge fishermen find an arduous and uncertain living. In good years and bad, they come to harvest the sponges for the market at Aegina near Athens. They have put aside the old helmeted diving suits, now depend on multiple air hoses attached to a common source at the surface. Out of experience, each team has improvised its own decompression system, but the danger remains. Almost all, by the age of 40, have been crippled by the bends. It is, they feel, part of the cost of gathering sponges.
On the rim in Thera, the artists no longer paint frescoes. Yet, life goes on. Each day is a reminder that man has always lived on the edge of extinction by earthquake or plague, by famine or his own folly. Here, each man knows it is best to tend one's field and be thrifty with water, keep peace with neighbors, pray to whatever gods are handy, and if your wings are made of wax, do not fly too close to the sun.
Society and KCET are jointly responsible for the content of this program.